Hello and welcome to Marketing Tech. Today, my name is David Ogletree, and today I'm talking to Mark Traphagen. Welcome, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, David. Thanks for having me. Glad to join you on this today.
Great. So, on Marketing Tech, I always ask people, usually the first question I ask them is, what computer do you use? Do you use a laptop or a desktop?
Use a laptop, company issue, so nothing very sexy or powerful. It's just an 8 GB Lenovo ThinkPad. Pretty standard issue corporate stuff. It's the
Right.
main computer. I have a MacBook Air off to the side here. That's for my personal stuff, and usually an iPad on the other side. And that's about it. No big mega monitor set up or anything here. This all meets my need. I do have one large monitor.
What kind of
Um,
microphone do you have there?
what is this, a Ano? It was a deal on Amazon. I took a chance on it and it worked. So it's pretty good. That's a 2020 you have there.
It's an SM48.
Oh, it's an SM48. Oh, okay. I'm impressed now. That's serious business. But
Well, actually, it's only like $39.
oh, really? I
Yeah.
had yeah, I had, what was the one? Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. But it was like the one a few years ago, like everybody was using for podcasts, and back a few people might remember Blab, the kind of overnight sensation that disappeared overnight also as a video chat platform, and like everybody on Blab had the same microphone. It was a fantastic microphone, but just earlier this year it just stopped working. So I just bought this on a chance on Amazon, and it's worked very well.
Really, the top microphones, at least from Shure, are the it's the SM7 or something. 7, I think it has the end of it, and that's the one that you see a lot. It's got it comes with a little thing that holds it on the side, and has like a big cone that comes out a little bit. And then the most standard one that you see at every single concert that pretty much everybody who sings has one is the SM58, which
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost identical to this one.
that one's so famous. I can probably name you half a dozen songs that have SM58 in the lyrics.
Oh yeah.
It's just,
So this is basically the $39 version of the $100 F58. And so,
hmm.
and I've been looking around and I listened to them and I couldn't tell the difference. I was like,
Well, you
what?
sound just like David Ogletree, so it works.
Yeah. I mean, I even listened to some videos where they would show, he'd have both microphones and he'd switch back and forth and just kind of keep speaking. And you couldn't tell when he switched microphones to me. I mean, I have pretty
Yeah,
good hearing. So some people just get really picky about microphones and stuff. And I know a lot of people use the Yeti. That's the Blue Yeti is like the really popular one that a
yeah.
lot of people use. And so I think you told me before you have 8 gigabytes of RAM on your machine. Do you ever run into issues with opening tabs, having a lot of tabs open? How many tabs do you normally keep open?
Yeah, I try to be disciplined in my tabs. I will probably have 20 to 30, which wouldn't sound very disciplined to some people, but then I see people out there with like 100 or more. I use a little app called One Tab that
Okay.
lets me quickly collapse the tabs onto one tab, and it keeps them in the cloud. And then what's cool is that, like, I try to remember like 2 or 3 times a week to one tab all my open tabs. Then if something crashes, they're there. I can open them. I can also, if memory's getting a problem, I can collapse it down and just open what I need to. It also keeps a history. Like every time you use it, you can go back and go to previous date and find, if you had a set of tabs that you want to open again, you can actually go back and open them.
Yeah, I like when I do programming as well. And so when I'm programming, I have a certain set, probably like less than 10 that I keep open. And like I think Steve Wiedemann said he had like 70 or 150 or something ridiculous. I was I
Yeah,
think
I know
he's
a lot of
still,
practicing SEOs will have that. Will have 70, 80, 100 or more open at a time. So
yeah.
I
You
try to
seem
keep it at
pretty
20,
average.
30
Most
max.
people seem to be right around 20 or 30 like that.
Yeah.
I can't really comprehend more than 10 because it's hard for me to, I mean, if I were to use something like one tab, I think I need to look into that because that would be useful.
Yeah.
But I have several little testing sites that I go to, like phptester.net. And there's another one that helps me do my regex, where you can test your regex stuff in it, and
Hmm.
regex tester online or something like that. And of course, I use is it SEO book? I use their header checker a lot. I use that one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we all have that. We all have, certain documents that we just refer to, and then certain software pieces that we're going to use every day. So we keep them open. Of course, I always have seoClarity open. That's who I work for. So always got a pretty prominent tab on my machine.
So is seoClarity, is that a pretty much, I know it's a suite of different things. Is it all online, or do you actually have a program you download?
Nope, we're totally SaaS, totally software in the cloud, subscription service. We're pretty much a full suite enterprise platform. So, and I say enterprise, up until recently, like that was entirely our client base. We try to cover it all. It's all the data sources. We can integrate from third-party sources like your analytics, GSC, things like that. Bring that right in, and actually use artificial intelligence to integrate that data with the data we collect. All the normal, keyword ranking, keyword research, content optimization. We do site crawls, audits, the full service.
Right.
But it's at our basic level is kind of an unlimited level, because that's what you need at the enterprise level. We don't penny charge people by the number of keywords, things like that, or how many audits they do. But that makes it priced out of the bounds of anything but an enterprise company. Although this year we introduced a new product called Essentials. That's seoClarity Essentials. That's just the parts of our platform that everyday SEOs and small to mid-sized businesses would most likely need to use. And it's at you pay at a keyword level. You buy so many keywords that you track, but it makes it much more affordable for anybody else out there. So we do have that option now.
So I was going to ask you about your, how I've always known you as kind of an SEO, more of a consultant working with different companies like that, agencies and things like that. And so you've just recently moved over to seoClarity with a totally different type of job. Have you ever done anything tell me about that job, and have you ever done anything like that before?
I kind of have, and I kind of haven't. It's definitely different. Like it's in-house. It's for the first time in my digital marketing career. I'm in-house. I've always been at an agency. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I started in-house at a little bookstore. That's where I learned SEO initially, and digital marketing, social media. The whole thing was doing it for a little independent bookstore in Philadelphia. So I guess you'd say I was in-house then. But after I left them, like everything I did was in agencies, including, of course, my 5 years with Eric Enga at Stone Temple, which were incredible. I learned so much. So at Stone Temple, while I did off and on, I did client consulting there. My primary function was actually marketing the agency and working with Eric to do that. So, we had the Here's Why video series that many people will know us from, and all the great studies that we did, the huge, studies that got us a lot of attention, a lot of links, a lot of write-ups, and really advanced the agency. So, that's why I cut my teeth learning to market a company itself, or market, in that case, an agency. And that's come over here. So for seoClarity, one of my two hats, my title is Vice President of Product Marketing and Training. So I wear two hats. So the product marketing side is just kind of organizing all of our efforts around getting seoClarity known, and also especially new things that we introduce, which we're doing all the time, new innovations, getting those out there, making sure our clients know about them and understand them, and then the general world that we want to sell them to. And then finally, with training, that I'm responsible for our in-house and client training and setting up some more organized programs around that. And that reaches way back, because for many years before I was in this world, I was a teacher, educator, and also a school administrator. So the training side, I get to reach back and bring some of that in.
Yeah, I have always been a trainer myself. One of my first jobs I ever had in technology was, I was a trainer for the state of Texas, and I would go all over the state and train blind people how to use their computers. Of course, this was the day of DOS and Windows 3.1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would train people how to use the programs that would, like JAWS for Windows, where it would speak to you,
Mm-hmm.
and braille displays where they would have the little pins that would pop up on this little device, and you could read the braille, and it would refresh they'd go down and come back up, and you could refresh it again. And so that was my original training. And I've always been a trainer. That's what my whole company is now, is just training Google Ads. So yeah, I can definitely relate to the training part of it. And that's, some of us, that's all. You're just like me. We're a trainer at heart. I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
always training people.
Yeah, I love it. I totally love it. Like to me, that part is funny. Like before we came on camera, you asked me if I, what my hobbies were. And, I mentioned one that I think we'll talk about, but I just realized like half of my job, don't tell my boss this because they won't pay me for it, but the training part of my job feels like a hobby. Like it's
Yeah.
just fun. I just love that. Love designing a training, conducting it. Everything about it is just fun for me.
Yeah, I just that feeling of, especially when it's effective. I mean, I know some people that do training, and because I've been to some of these, whole day trainings, and everybody's just like bored out of their mind. But
Yeah.
when you teach somebody something, and then all of a sudden you can see the light bulb come on, that is just the most wonderful feeling, and especially when they're grateful for it, that's a great feeling too.
Hmm. For sure.
So
For sure.
so yeah, that's a lot of fun. So what does your day kind of consist of? You just designing materials, training, and then marketing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, in this first year there, I've been with them since January. I'd say the majority of my time, probably 60 to 70% of my time over the course of a week, is spent on the training side. Because that's something that we really need developed. We need to get that going, and it takes time to get that set up and going. So I've been working hard at that. But then the product marketing side comes in and goes. It like depends on. There's always stuff to do on that overall, but it ramps up more when we have a new product. Like we just introduced a couple weeks ago something we're very excited about. We've been working on for years called Actionable Insights, which is a AI driven or a platform that measures every time you open it. It looks at over 120 different SEO factors from your site, from outside metrics, brings everything together, and gives you a prioritized list of tasks that you should be looking at. So
Nice,
everything from technical SEO to rankings to your content, your competitive situation. It evaluates all that. It's huge. It's incredible. I think it's going to change the way that enterprises do SEO,
nice.
because our aim was to cut down the time between data and when you actually are able to take action. So when something like that comes out, I'm the product marketing hat gets a lot bigger, and having to help with making sure that we understand it and that our clients understand it, and then of course that the general world understands the value of it.
So I would assume with the sounding of what you described that your job would entail a lot of conference going. How has this uh, pandemic kind of affected that, or
Yeah,
has
well,
it?
well, we're recording this in 2020, so there's not a lot of conferences to go to, even if you wanted to. uh, the ones that, yeah, conferences are something we do. We've always done. People might have seen the seoClarity booth at some of the SEO conferences around the world. Actually, we're a global brand, but it's not a huge part of our marketing. It's important, but it's not essential.
Right,
So, we feel like it's kind of an add-on thing. I think for a lot of companies that find that market at conferences find that it's often more of a good opportunity to meet your clients that are in
right,
that area where you are than anything else, which is extremely valuable. But
sure.
most of our most of our selling, our marketing comes from like typical things. Content that we produce makes people aware of us. The word of mouth is just huge for us because
Of
people
course.
that use us love us, and they tell their buddies in the SEO world, and that's been probably the biggest source of new clients for us. So, but conferences would definitely be like when the virtual conferences now, and as conferences come back to being an in-person thing, part of my regular diet. I'll be back on that circuit, speaking wherever I can.
Yeah, you were doing that already even before this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I do miss it. And sure, it's
yeah,
like,
I do
you know,
too.
we all do. Like it's the time when we all see each other and
Yeah.
are able to hang out, and you learn so much, and I do miss it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got started in this industry. I originally started out on Webmaster World, and then I learned that they had a conference, and this was back in 2003. So it
Mm.
was just the beginning of there wasn't even Vegas yet, and so the next one they had was in London. So I went to 2003 PubCon London, and it literally was a PubCon. You went to a pub, and that's all we did
Yeah.
was hang out at the pub, and that's literally all the conference was. And so that's was my introduction, and I've kept it that way ever since. As a matter of fact, I don't usually go to a whole lot of the little meetings and stuff. I usually just hang out in whatever bar everyone's hanging out with, and and network. And that's where I learned stuff. That's how I got my start. That's how I learned.
Yeah,
And I totally recommend, if anybody's watching this, that if you want to learn to this stuff, I mean, the sessions are great, but that's nothing compared to what you will learn hanging out in the bars and
absolutely.
events and
And of
stuff.
course, that's where you and I know each other from.
Yeah.
You know, all those years of conferences, and so many. That's where we would see each other. That's where we'd hang out, where we'd talk. So it
Yeah.
leads to things like this. It leads to that kind of networking, as well as what you learn from other people
Right.
and the insider tips. People will talk about something in the evening at the pub that they won't talk about anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
But also, you make the relationships that make such a difference in this industry.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of camaraderie here. And when I've always felt like, since I've been on the conference circuit and since I've been out there and kind of known, I've never worried about, am I going to be able to have a job?
Right.
There's just enough people that know me, enough people I can contact. It's always been wonderful. So that's
Yeah. If
another
I've ever,
value.
anytime I've ever applied for a job or talking to a new client or something, I tell them they're not just hiring me; they're also hiring my Rolodex, which is an old term, but my network.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
access to a network that I've been working on for 17 plus years. I know a lot of people in the industry, and if I have questions, I know who to ask, and we
It's a
all
great
do.
resource. It really
Yeah,
is. Use it
yeah.
all the time.
All the successful people I know do that. That's
Hmm.
what you've got to do. I was going to ask you about your mandolin playing. So, when did you start playing the mandolin?
Oh, so we're gonna do old technology now, wooden technology. Well, I played it for 40 years, over 40 years. But I say played it, if people are listening to this instead of viewing it, I'm doing air quotes around that. Most of that time, decades, like I kind of just hacked away at it. I knew enough chords to be dangerous. I could play to, company things. I played in little church bands, things like that, but wasn't really serious about it until about 6 years ago. I was at a hotel up in Massachusetts for Stone Temple, where I used to work, and was staying over for a 2-week stay. Got back to the hotel on a Friday night, and the hotel was filled with music. Turns out there's this bluegrass festival in February in Massachusetts inside of a hotel. 600 people taking over the whole hotel except my room. And I just was up till 3 a.m, listening to people play and watching the mandolin players. And I said, oh, that's what this thing can do. So I, traded up, got a much better mandolin, started getting serious about it, watching the YouTube videos, practicing, I live here in Durham, North Carolina, which, again, in pre-COVID times, there's a jam like every night of the week, and just lots of opportunities to play and learn from better players. And it's become a love and an obsession. And I'm good enough now that I can hold my own in a pickup jam. So that makes me happy. Like, I don't need to be any greater than that.
What kind of mandolin do you have now?
I have a Washburn. I forget the exact model number of it. It's one of the higher end. Washburn's not
Right.
the greatest mandolin that you can have like that, but for me, it was a real step up at the time. It does what I want to. I love the one that I have. I think it sounds great. It's very easy to play. And it was I invested in, this is a little bit of vanity. For those that don't know, like, there's basically two styles of mandolins. And the terms were coined by Gibson many, many years ago, over 100 years ago. There's the A style and the F style. So the A
Hmm.
style is kind of the older teardrop shaped mandolin, what a lot of people would think of when they think of mandolin, kind of the mandolin from classical music.
Right.
And then there's
Italian.
the Gibson F style, which is a lot fancier, which is kind of like meant to imitate a violin body a little bit more, and it has
Hmm.
scroll work on it and a bit more carving and usually a little more finish. So you're paying for the little bit premium for the look of it, but it's kind of the bluegrass mandolin, and
I like the way it looks.
and
It
it
has
works
little curls up on the end of it. Yeah. I
exactly
love
right. The
that. I
body
kind of
has a
had
little.
a Yamaha, and mine was a little bit kind of a combination. It was a teardrop shape, but it had F holes in it. But it it was a decent. Wasn't very expensive, but it was great. Maybe a
Yeah,
$300.
mine has F-shaped holes too, which is appropriate because a mandolin, people again might not know, like, a mandolin is basically a fretted violin. It's the
Exactly.
same range, the same scale, the same tuning, except it has doubled strings, of course, for some volume and frets. But it is essentially a violin.
Yeah. Yeah. I had actually bought a little cheapo violin as well, and my teacher was teaching me both. I figured I might as well learn both of them at the same time, but they're not. They really are totally different beasts. I
Oh
learned.
yeah, I tried I picked up a violin once and tried it, and I didn't keep up long with it for it to click. But just like that, it's kind of like rubbing your head and or patting your head and rubbing your stomach. You know,
Yeah.
the bowing motion at the same time you're trying to fret. Like it just wouldn't click for me, and I gave up in frustration.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me on mandolin, and I never could really get my brain around it, was how fast that people were able to pick, and just that just
Yeah.
seems inhuman. I don't know how that's even remotely possible that you can move that fast. It's
Yeah, I've gotten better at it. I'm nowhere near the players who the professional players who I admire. Like they're crazy. They're incredible.
yeah,
But I just practice. Like I practice every day. I love it playing, and I play some every day. And the more you play, the faster you get. It's just a matter of doing it.
have you ever heard the song "Into the Wild" from Eddie Vedder? I think it's the theme song from that. It's an all mandolin song.
Yeah, that's from movies. So like a lot of people who wouldn't know, a lot of people probably in our audience even like say, well, I don't know what a mandolin really is. I don't know what it sounds like. You've heard it. There's like
Yeah,
so much popular music that it's in like that. I was back in my generation, was, what I remember hearing early when I didn't know what it was, but I loved the sound was Led Zeppelin. Some of the Led Zeppelin acoustic songs have mandolin in them. Rod Stewart, very famously, like
yeah,
Mandolin Wind, Maggie May. Oh my gosh, that introduction to Maggie May. I mean, that doesn't make you fall in love with mandolin.
yeah.
And then REM used Peter Buck from REM. Played
Yep.
mandolin a lot,
Yeah, there's
using my
even quite a few
religion.
modern songs, even some modern. I can't remember the name of it, but there was one modern song because when I was learning mandolin, I started collecting songs, on my playlist and stuff of different songs that had mandolin. It was amazing. Even some of the more modern, pop songs have it. It's amazing.
Yeah. This summer, like what I've been concentrating on, this has turned into mandolin talk, man. But sorry, folks, you're stuck with two old mandolin players here. This summer, what I've been concentrating on is learning old fiddle tunes, and just a lot of the standard tunes, because it's good ear training. Like I try to learn them by ear. I don't learn them from tab.
Right.
Listen to it, play it slowly on a video, and just play along and figure it out, because that really gets the memory built up. But they're so great for just technique, like learning. You talk about getting faster and getting fingerings down, and you get a muscle memory for certain little flourishes and things that you can do, that you can throw when I'm playing, when I'm improvising, when I'm taking breaks, as we call it, in a bluegrass song. I
Right.
find now that I'm adapting like a lot of the little licks from these old fiddle tunes into my playing. They're just there automatically. Like I don't even think about it.
Yeah, I remember there was a couple other songs I was trying to learn, like Copperhead Road, and
Oh yeah, Sam Bush. Yeah.
yeah, and then there was a Dixie Chick song. I can't remember which one it was, that had a pretty good mandolin in it. So I really enjoy. I'm actually mostly a drummer. I mean, I played the drums. I could say I played the drums for 40 years, even though I haven't played the last 20, I guess. But I I definitely I love music, and I had Aaron Cronus on here as well. He, I don't even know him or not, but we talked a little bit about his music, and I just love music. It's funny. I listen
Yeah.
to heavy metal and I listen to bluegrass. I'm all over the place. Are you the same way?
There's, yeah, I listen to a lot of different music. Been listening to bluegrass pretty heavily for the last few years, again, because I'm really invested in that, and that's what I
Sure,
want to play.
sure.
But I listen to a lot of different music, pretty eclectic. My boyfriend right now is into 90s punk music, so which was never a love of mine, but I'm learning to love it through him. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, if I just hear something, I may not like it so much, but if I actually try to, I mean, I've learned to appreciate music appreciation, just of really anything. If I can appreciate the difficulty and the musicianship of it, I love music.
yeah, it's a great thing. It's like when I'm not doing SEO and I'm not doing my work that I love, that's what I'm invested in, is just the music. And even in this time of COVID, it's been a lot harder, but we found a way, like a few of my friends, that we were going to a very large jam pre-coronavirus, pre-COVID, that can't meet right now. But we get together once a week, and we keep it to just 5 or 6 of us. We we play outside, which thankfully, here in North Carolina, there's a good long season that you can do that,
Yeah,
and distanced. So we're in a big circle out in somebody's yard, far enough apart that it's safe. So we find ways to play still and get
yeah,
together and play.
yeah. That's always fun. When I played, I lived in Austin, and so there, if you can imagine, there was just tons of that kind of things there. You'd go meet up at a park, and there'd just be people everywhere. People would just kind of group up, and you just can go from group to group, and you'd hear all kinds of different music playing the mandolin and violin, and all kinds of different stuff. Guitar, lots of guitars.
Yeah.
It was just so wonderful.
It's been having something like that has been I don't want to say a lifesaver, that would be an exaggeration, but it's been certainly a huge benefit during these times of being, more constrained to home, spending more time at home. Like having something at the end of the workday that I can look right over there and there's the mandolin. I just pick it up and go to town on it. And it's, something constructive to do, something I've definitely gotten better, during his last 6 months because I'm spending more time at it, times when I would have been going out with friends or something, now I'm home. So
Back to technology. Have you
yeah,
looked into trying to play along with people online? Is that even possible? Cronus and I talked about that a little bit.
it's really difficult. It can be done. There's technology to do it. And people think like, well, just do it in Zoom, right? You can just get people together on
Yeah, the
Zoom.
delay.
It does not work. Yeah, the delay and the automated switching of sound and everything like that, it just does not work. So there are some sophisticated solutions out there, but you have to have a really high speed, very high speed connection at home that you're directly wired into.
Mhm.
They say like, don't even do it over Wi-Fi
Right.
or
Yeah, you
Bluetooth
wouldn't
or
want to do
anything like that.
wireless.
And these things usually use like a kind of some kind of hub hardware that you get into. And even with those, a lot of them say like, you should be within 500 or 600 miles because even just the delay of distance
Right.
can mess it up. So it's doable. It's a lot. So people say like, well, I see Zoom things where people are playing together or big choirs are singing together. You need to realize typically how those are done is those are recorded individually with
Yep.
a click track or rhythm track, and then somebody puts it all together
Yep.
later.
Yeah, I had an aunt that did something like that. She's a very accomplished accordion player. She's, training with. She has lessons from one of the masters of the accordion. I don't know much about the accordion world, but apparently there's masters of it, and she's actually really good. She's quite accomplished. And she did that recently. I need to ask her how she did that. It might have been what like you're talking about, where they recorded it separately, individually, and then played along, and then put them all
Right.
together.
Put it together
Probably.
later. Yeah.
So, yeah, well, thank you so much for coming. This has been wonderful. I mean, this is, we talk about marketing tech, but this is really more of just my marketing friends hanging out, uh, making up for not being able to be at conferences. And I thank you so much for coming and giving me your time. And if you want to, you know, check out seoClarity, Mark will be the guy to talk to. And I'm David Ogletree, and thank you so much for coming.